Welcome to poker vlog number 22. We're at the casino and this is a Thursday, and let's catch up since last vlog was last week and things were going pretty bad. I was down 2 weeks in a row, so not loving it, and things are very different. I wish I would have vlogged these last days, since Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday of this week were just a crazy run. The most money I made back to back, almost what I make in a month, I made in 3 days. So pretty crazy. Hopefully we could keep it going today. I usually would have vlogged one of those days, but I was just way behind on editing, and I just finished last night what would have been vlog 20. So yeah, with all that said, let's jump right into the poker room. Hopefully we can keep this amazing sun run going, because the best one I've had so far is pretty crazy. And yeah, that's about it. Oh, I want to add, yeah, I do paint my nails. I just got a lot of comments since vlog 20, the one I uploaded yesterday is the first one I actually have them painted. And yeah, nothing to it, truthfully, no meaning, behind it. I just like how it looks, and my daughter didn't paint them, my wife paints them. Oh no, this time I actually went and got a manicure, first time in my life. And yeah, get that out of the way so I don't get a bunch of comments about that every time. And let's go play. All right, let's play some poker. Today's gonna be different since we're just gonna be playing 1-3. No 2-5 tables going on, but don't worry, there is a lot of action, definitely above average. So we buy them for $300. Let's head over to the table and play our first hand. We're in a small blind with pocket eights. There's 3 limpers, so I make it $25 and only get under than 1 to call. So heads up to a flop. Flop comes 7-3-5, so pretty good. We have an overpair to the board. And I decided to spec big here since, one, we need protection, since most likely the turn will be an overcard to our pocket pair. And then we'll be in a weird situation if I bet small, since definitely he will be floating with a lot of overcards if I do so. And as well, there's a lot of draws. And if he has a 7, I just want to try to get money in now before scary cards come out. So I make it $40 and he does call. Turn is a king, so an overcard to our pocket pair, and I'm happy I just bet big on the flop, since I don't think he should have too many kings now unless he has king 7 or a king with a flush draw. And I want to keep on going for value here again, because I don't think he has too many kings, but he still has 7s, he still has flush draws that we could get value from. But with the scare card, I don't want to bet too big, since I do want the 7s to call, so I make it $60. And now he goes all in for 180. So definitely not expecting this. This looks very strong. First time playing with this guy, but he just seems like he's not that experienced. And yeah, less experienced players, I just don't expect them to turn their hand into a bluff on a turn if they have a draw. I think usually they're just calling, trying to hit it, and if not, they fold. So I just think most likely he did turn 2 pair with top pair, king 7, or he had a flush draw with a king. So I'm going to give him credit, and I do fold my pocket 8. So the first pot of the session goes his way. Now we're basically in the same situation as before. So we got 10-9 suited in the big line. There's 3 limpers, so I make it $25 and only under than 2 calls. Same player as before. So heads up. Flop comes ace, jack, 3. So we don't hit, but we got a backdoor flush draw and a backdoor straight draw on a board. That's definitely better for us than the limper. So I'm going to put out a C bet. I make it $20 and he calls. Turn is a king, so it does improve our equity with a gut shot, but definitely not as much as I would have liked for to keep the barreling going. At least the open and the straight draw, of course, the flush draw. So I do check, and now he bets. He makes it $35. And yeah, this is the downside playing against a new player, since I have no clue how he plays, especially since he, as I said, seems inexperienced and he hasn't really raised yet. He's limping almost every hand. So I don't know if he's just limping everything. That happens sometimes. Players just limp ace king, ace queen. So maybe he has 2 pair. Maybe he has ace king. Maybe he has all the nutted hands here since he doesn't raise pre-flop. I don't know. And I'm just not going to call with a gut shot. So I fold. Once again, the pot's going his way. And once again, we're basically in the same spot when we have king, queen suited in the small blind. Again, 3 limpers, so I make it $25, but the only difference is that our nemesis isn't the one calling, it is the cutoff. So heads up to a flop. And we do hit the board this time. It comes 8, queen, 3, so top pair, king kicker. Let's get some value. I see bet for $30 and get the good news when he calls. Turn is a 7. It seems pretty safe. Sure, he could have 7, 8, and now it's 2 pair and is beating us, but I think more likely he just has a queen with a worst kicker or a flush draw, and he has $190 behind. So I want to try to bet a size I could get it all in by the river. So I make it $90. He thinks for a little bit, but does just end up folding. So we take down the first pot of the session. Now we're in a big line with king 10 off. Under the gun, a super old man coffee makes it $6, button calls onto us. And yeah, usually I'm just always folding against him since he usually limps. If he raises, it's usually very nutted hands, but he just made it 2x. So I'm basically calling here, trying to hit 2 pair. So that's what I do. I call, let's see a flop. Flop comes 10, 3, 4. So we hit top pair, king kicker, I checks, and he c-bets. He makes it $15, button folds. And yeah, I mean, I have a very strong hand, but I'm not liking this spot. As I said, this player, he's super tight, and he usually only bets if he has it. I've never seen him bluff before, but yeah, I mean, folding to 1 bet with top pair king kicker, I think is definitely way too tight, even against him. Maybe just always putting a c-bet with ace king. So I call. Turn is a 7. I check, and now he's grabbing a decent amount of chips, and I just snap fold. It looks tight, but against this player, at barrel on the turn, I really never think I'm good. And that's kind of the downside if you play a super crazy tight range pre-flop. I mean, if people pay attention, they should know that they just shouldn't pay you off. And I'm really playing against him, just trying to hit 2 pair trips, or if I have pocket pair, just set mine. So yeah, he takes it down. Let's move on. Now we're under the gun with ace jack off. I make it $12, folds to small blind, and he throws in $3, not realizing that I raised. And now he has to keep that in there. And he was kind of annoyed looking at the dealer saying, why didn't you tell me? Of course, it's not the dealer's responsibility. He did say it. But anyways, now that he put in the $3, he does call. Big blind folds, heads up to a flop. Flop comes king, queen, 5. So we have a gut shot, an overcard, and a backdoor flush draw with a jack. And now small blind, he leads out. He just has $18, and he goes all in onto us. And sure, we don't really have anything, but it's just $18. And his whole show that it seemed like he didn't want to play seemed truthful. So I don't expect him to have a strong hand. So I feel if we hit our ace, it's definitely good. And of course, if we hit a 10, it's good. And maybe even a jack, since maybe he just has bottom pair. And since he just has such little behind, he just is going to throw it in. So I do call. Turn is a 7 and river comes an ace. So we spike top pair on the river. And we needed the help since he shows queen 10 for flop middle pair. So our ace is good. We take it down. Now we're in the button with queen jack suited. The low jack makes it 7. The cutoff calls, and that's a very small raise. I don't want to call here, take it super multi-way. Definitely prefer 3-betting with a hand that is pretty strong. And we just take it down in now or try to get it heads up in position. So I do 3-bet. I make it $30. Low jack folds, but the cutoff does call. That is the older title player from the previous hand. Flop comes 8, 7, ace. So we don't hit, but backdoor flush draw, backdoor straight draw, and there's an ace on the board. So definitely good for our 3-bet range. So when he checks, I c-bet for $20 and he calls. Turn doesn't help. It's another ace. He checks, and maybe I should just give up here, especially against this player that is very tight. But I felt like calling the raise and in a 3-bet, he'd have a lot of pocket pairs. And I feel if I bet here again, he will fold those, even though he shouldn't, since now it's less likely to have an ace. But a lot of times, especially in 1-3, when it pairs the top pair, people get more scared, even though it's less likely I have a top pair. So I am going to try to bluff him. But I make it a small size. I don't think I have to bet too big. I make it $40. And our plan does not work since he check raises us to 140. So, I mean, that just seems like an ace. And we have queen high. So I fold. He takes it down. Bluffs haven't been working out. So let's see if we can bet for value. We're looking at an ace queen suited in the cutoff. There's 3 limpers. So I make it $23. Get a big blind. That's the same player from the first couple hands. He just is playing a bunch of hands pre-flop. And the hijack calls. So 3 ways to a flop. Flop is a dream. Deuce, 3, 8. So we flop the nuts, and it gets even better since the big blind leads out for $20. Hijack folds, and I'm fast playing this. I don't think he's folding. It seems very much like top pair, and I don't want scary cards to come out on the turn and him just folding. So I raise. I make it 60 and see the good news when he calls. Turn is a 5. When he checks, he just has $81 behind, so we're going to go for it. We go all in. He thinks for a little bit and does call. River is a 6, so we still have the nuts. So of course when we show, we're good, and we finally take down a decent pot. Now we are in the button with jack 10 suited. As usual, there's 3 limpers. I make it $25. Small blind calls, 2 limpers call. Now the cutoff, he just really is thinking about it. It seems like he has a really bad hand that wants to fold, but he feels pot committed after so many people called. So he does end up calling as well. Flop comes 10, deuce, 5. And now it checks to the cutoff, and he leads out for $80. So this was very strange. And the main thing is pre-flop. He really looked like he had a very weak hand. So I don't know what is leading out so multi-way and betting so big that was weak pre-flop. So I don't think he has a top pair with a better kicker, since I think he's just calling pretty quickly with Jack 10, King 10, Ace 10. If he has a set, again, snap call. And that just leaves us with hands that are beating us that is 10-5, 5 deuce, and deuce 10 that are two pairs. And I really didn't know if he would call that bad of hands pre-flop. So I do go into the tank. I felt maybe he just hit a top pair with a better worse kicker, 10-8, 10-7, 10-6. Maybe I feel that was more likely than such weak hands like the two pairs that are possible here. Or maybe he has a flush draw or a combo draw. So again, because of all that information pre-flop, I do call, and so does the small blind. So 3 ways to a turn. Turn is an ace. I don't think should change too much for the cutoff. If he did bet that much on a flop, it would be with a flush draw. That's an ace. And if he had a suited ace, I think he's just snap calling pre-flop. But maybe the small blind, I think he definitely could have a flush draw with the ace. And now the cutoff goes all in, but it's just $53. So now I just feel like we're stuck. There's not much I can do. I don't feel like I'm usually good, but I felt like most likely the small blind too. He didn't have too strong of a hand. Maybe he's the one with a draw, since if he had two pairs or better, I think he'd be raising a lot on the flop. So I just feel I'm just stuck. I'm getting too good of a price to fold. So I do call. So does the small blind. River is a 4. Small blind checks. I'm happy to get the showdown. I check, and the cutoff flips over 5 deuce suited for flop 2 pair. So he did have one of those 2 pair combos on the flop that he definitely was weak. I just wasn't thinking he was that weak pre-flop. And small blind had queen jack suited for a flush draw, and even told cutoff that he just got paid because the whole show he put pre-flop, because even though I had top pair, that bet looks so strong, and I still have a bunch of people to talk after me. So with top pair but such a bad kicker, I do think I would have ended up just folding on the flop. But with all that information pre-flop, I just couldn't find a fold. I just didn't see many hands that I was losing against. And the cutoff takes it down. So yeah, it definitely hasn't been the best session so far. Every time we start winning money and making pots, it seems like a little bit after we just start losing and just staying around the breaking even down a little bit. Let's see if we could change that with King 10 suited. I'm in the low jack, under the gun 2 limp, so I'm gonna get $15 and get the button and limp with a call. So 3 ways to a flop. Flop is pretty nice. 9 king king. So we flop trips, 10 kicker. I see bet for $15 and just get the button a call. So heads up to a turn. Turn is a 9. That's definitely interesting. May be actually good, since now a 9 is a full house as well, and may not fold if we keep on betting. And as well, he could definitely have better kings, king jack, king queen. And sometimes in 1-3, people don't even 3-bet with an ace king. And I decided to check here. One of my thoughts was that I may not be able to get 3 streets of value from a 9. So if I check and bet the river, he may not believe I have a king, and I can make a pretty big size to compensate for the check on the turn. So that is what I do, and he checks back. River is a 3. Let's go with the plan. I bet $75, and he pretty quickly goes all in for 50 more. That's definitely bad news. Just seems like we're chopping against another king. I call, and he flips over king 9. So he flopped a full house. Our trips were not good on the flop. Thankfully, we got really lucky on the turn, bringing another 9, so we both had the same full house, and we chop it up. In this next one, we're straddling and under the gun, since we're trying to get some action going. It's definitely not the best table. A lot of tighter regs that are here all the time, so not too much action, and we get rewarded since we got pocket 9s. Under the 2, one of the tighter players makes it 15. That is pretty small, since a little over 2x my straddle, but for him, this does look very strong, since he mostly always limps. So when he raises, it's usually pretty nutted hands. When it falls to us, all I'm doing here is call. Let's see a flop. Flop is beautiful. 10-9-3. We flop middle set, and we get even good news. So when I check, he bets $35, so bigger than the size of the pot, and this just smells like a pocket pair, so I'm loving it. I don't want to raise. There's no flush on the board, so there's not that many scared turn cards, and I don't want him to get worried that his pocket pair may not be good, so I call. Turn is a queen. I check, and he goes all in for $198, almost 2x pot. Obviously, aces or kings. This is how these players play it. That's why I said previously against the other guy that when I play against them, I'm just set mining and trying to hit 2 pairs, because this is how they play. And a lot of times they get paid off. You know, players don't believe them or just can't fold top pair. So now we have a set We snap call. River is another queen, and I just show him my full house. I know what he has, and I know people may get upset thinking I should show first, but I know my hand is good. I know what he has. No need to make him feel like he may be good. So we take down the biggest pot of the session so far. Let's see if we could keep it going. Now we're in a small blind with Jack 10 suited. There's 2 limpers, so I make it $23, and only the big blind calls, so heads up to a flop. Flop comes 4-7-7, so yeah, we don't have much going on for us, but it's the big blind. Maybe we can get some aces, kings, queens to fold. That is a win, so I make it $20, but that's not the case since he calls. Turn is at 8. That gives a gut shot, so definitely not the worst card to be barreling on, but I decided in the moment to check, and my thought behind it was I don't think I'm gonna get many fools, especially with the flush draw on the board. And if I had overpairs, I'd definitely consider checking, since he could definitely have a lot of sevens himself, and like that at pot control. So that's what I do in a moment. I check and see the good news when he checks back. River is really good. It's 8 jacks. We got 2 pair. A spot I think is usually always good, since I think he's always betting the turn with a 7. So let's get some value. I make it $35, and he does call. We show. We're good, so my guess is pocket pair. You'll never know. Let's move on to the next hand. We're straddling again in under the gun, and once again we get rewarded with an ace jack off. Under than 1 and button limp, so I make it $30, and they both call, so 3 ways to a flop. Flop comes deuce jack 10, so pretty good. Top pair, top kicker on a very wet board. I see bet for $35 that definitely I would have preferred to make it on the bigger side on such a wet board, and we could get value from all the draws and worst top pairs. But that's what I do in the moment. Under than 1 snap calls, and a button folds, so heads up to a turn. Turn is another 5, bringing in another flush draw, and he just has 145 behind. I think just the move here is to go all in, since it's less than pot, so I think he very likely may call if he has a flush draw, and with top pairs that are worse than ours, putting us on a draw ourselves. So that's what we do. He goes into the tank for a little while, but does end up folding, so we take down another pot. After this hand, they open a new 1-3, and I look over, and it looks really good. A few guys I know are pretty action, so we rack up and head over there. First hand, we got ace jack off in a button. Under the gun and hijack limp, so I make it $20 and get big blind and limpers to call, so 4 ways to a flop. Flop comes 10-5 jack, so pretty good. Top pair, top kicker. Big blind checks, now under the gun leads out all in for just $18. Folds to us, and of course not going anywhere. I did consider raising, since it is a pretty small bet, and the big blind could have draws, and I want to give him too good of a price. But with an ace of hearts, and maybe if I call, he'll call light with bottom pair, middle pair. It is a little risky, but I do just call. Big blind folds, so let's see the run out. Turn is a 3, river's another 10, and he flips over 10-9 for river trips. He hits a 5-outer against our top pair and takes down the first pot on this new table. But definitely I'm still happy for moving, since it looks like there's a lot more action here. We get an upgrade in a small blind with pocket jacks. Under than 2, same player as before, is all in for $28. The button calls, and yeah, we're 3 betting. I make it $125. Button folds, so let's see the run out. Flop is 8-10 ace, so not the best. Turn is a 4, and river is a 9, so not too many hands that we're beating, but he flips over one of those with king, queen, so our pocket jacks is good. We take down the pot. All right, this next one is a big one. When once again, we're in a small blind with a better pocket pair, pocket queens. There's a button straddle, and under the gun, low jack, high jack, cut off limp, so I make it $55. Big blind calls. That definitely looks pretty strong, since he's a pretty tight player. Now, under the gun goes all in, but that is just $78, so 23 more. Low jack calls onto us, and all we could do here is call, since it is 23 more, so we can't jam ourselves, sadly. So I do call, so does the big blind, so we're going 4 ways into this pretty huge pot for 1-3. Flop is pretty good, 6-7-3, so no overcard to our pocket pair. If someone hit or set, or 2 pairs, well, it is what it is. The pot is way too big for me to fold pocket queens. Let's try to get some value from the flush draws, or maybe pocket pairs worse than ours. I make it $100. The big blind folds, so my guess is most likely ace king, but the low jack does call. That is all of his chips, since he has $81, so let's see the run out. Turn is a 9 that I'm not loving, since it brings in the flush. River is another 9. I show, and they both muck, so our pocket queens are good in this pretty, definitely way above average size pot for 1-3. So super happy with changing the table. Definitely a lot of action, and there's still plenty to go. Now on a hijack with ace 7 suited, there's 2 limpers, so I get $20 and only under than 2 calls, so heads up to a flop. Flop comes 9-3 deuce, so backdoor flush draw on overcard. He checks, definitely not the worst board to be c-betting on, but in the moment I do decide to check back. Turn is a 5. Now he bets $25. We got the nut flush draw. I considered raising, but I just didn't think it made much sense apart from pocket 5s. So in a spot that I just don't think I'd be raising for value, I call. River is a jack, and now he bets $70. And I go into the tank, and yeah, I have ace high, but I just wasn't believing him. One is the size. I feel like people will go for value with a smaller size, and the fact that an overcard came on the board and he keeps on betting, basically he's saying that he has a strong enough hand that is not scared that I have a jack myself. So I just did not believe him with the mix of the size that just made me feel like he was just saying please fold, and the fact that an overcard came to the board. But the thing was, I was worried that my hand was not good against some of his bluffs. I thought maybe he'd be bluffing with an ace that is better than mine. I would have called here with ace king 100% of the time, but with the 7 kicker, I was just worried I was going to call and he was going to say you're good and show me a better hand than a7. So I do end up folding, and he shows me 10-8 for absolutely nothing. And as I was expecting, it was a bluff. Our ace high was good, but I mean, it is what it is. I just felt like the 7 kicker was just so bad. I would have hate calling, and he has a bluff that was better than mine, so he takes it down with his bluff. Button straddle is going on. We looked at pocket tens and under and 1. I make it $25 against small blind and button to call, so 3 ways to a flop. Flop comes 4 deuce 5, so definitely we could be losing against a decent amount of sets, straights, 2 pairs against calling range, especially the button. He is very action. I feel like he's calling us almost everything after straddling the button, but in 1-3, it's just one of those spots I'm gonna bet, and I think I'm gonna be called by worse. And if they have something better, like what we said, sets, 2 pair straights, I'm gonna find out pretty quickly because they're gonna raise. So that is the plan. I make it $45. Button calls, small blind folds, so looking good. Let's see a turn. Turn is a jack, so overcard to a pocket pair. I said a check here since I don't think I'm gonna get more value from worse hands. If he had top pair, middle pair, bottom pair, they can start folding here. And as I said, he is pretty action, so if he has a draw, I think he'll be turning his hand into a bluff. So that's what I do, and he does bet. He makes it $80, and I'm just feeling really good with my hand here, because why would a jack be good for him? It just usually isn't, unless jack 5, if he turned 2 pair, it is what it is. Against this player, I just don't think him betting on this turn makes much sense, since, as I said, if he has 2 pairs set straights, I think I'd find out on the flop a good amount of time. So I'm still feeling really good with my pocket tens, so I call. River is another jack. That is bittersweet. Good side is that now it's less likely he has a jack himself, and if he was slow playing a flop 2 pair, we're beating those as well. Downside is that the front door flush does come in. I check, and he bets $100. And yeah, this line just wasn't make too much sense to me apart from the flush, because I don't think he should have too many jacks, and there is a good amount of straight draws that missed on the flop. So against this player, again, that price, I don't think I could fold. So I do call, and he says the beautiful words, "You're good." So we show our pocket tens, and they are in fact good. We take it down. Now we are up over $600. That is amazing for 1-3, 2 buy-ins. So definitely a good change of table. Let's try to keep it going. Now I'm going to cut off with ace 5 suited. There's 2 limpers. Hijack makes it 15, and definitely a good candidate to 3-bet bluff, so make it 50. But I guess it was just bad timing, since the big blind cold calls. Now it folds under the gun, who does the dreadful limp jam for 150. So yeah, I'm not calling that with ace 5 suited. I fold, so does the button, and under the gun takes it down. Now we're under the gun with ace jack off. I make it $12 and get under the gun 2, cut off, button, and big blind to call. So 5 ways to a flop. Flop is pretty good. Ace 4 7, so top pair, jack kicker, good enough to c-bet, so I make it $30. I only get under the gun 2 and cut off to call, so 3 ways to a turn. Turn is beautiful. It's a jack, so we have top 2, and both players are pretty action. If they have a draw, if they have top pair, I don't think they're folding, so I make it $100. And once again, they both call. River is a 10, so thankfully the flush does not come in. I feel like most likely one of them is on. And the way I played, I think my top 2 is always good. I think if they had a set, I would have found out by now, because they would have raised me. So let's get some value. I make it $300. That is less than pop, but thinking back, it may have been a little too greedy, because It is 1-3. It's 100 big blinds, so definitely a very scary bet. But that's what I do in the moment. Under than 2 goes into the tank for a good amount of time. And he sadly does end up folding, cut off snap fold, saying he had a draw. And later, under than 2 told me that he rivered 2 pair with ace 10. So that is pretty hard to believe. Sounds crazy that he called a turn and did fold the river when he rivered 2 pair. But if that is true, then definitely my $300 bet was too big. If I'm going to scare off 2 pairs like that and only get called bet better. But very happy with the pot. We take it down, and that brings us to the last hand of the session. Very next hand, I got ace 2 off in the big blind cutoff, button limp, small blind calls, so I'm happy checking here. Let's see a flop. Flop comes 3, deuce, 6. Not the best, bottom pair, but it checks around. Turn is great, it's an ace, so we have 2 pair, and a small blind it's $15. And with so many draws on the board, I don't want to give him a cheap price to see a river, so I raise him to 45. Folds back to him, and he does call. River is a 6. That's not the best since our 2 pairs counterfeited, so any ace is better than ours or chopping, and he leads out. He makes it $65, and I definitely think I make a big mistake here. Thinking back, what caused this? I think one of the reasons, this is right after the big hand, and my mind was still on that, thinking about the size, so I wasn't too focused on this hand. I just didn't think it through enough, and I pretty quickly folded. That, again, I think is a big mistake. All of the draws miss, both draws. There's 2 flush draws on the board, there's some straight draws, and is he really calling with a 6 and leading on the river? It just doesn't make too much sense. Even ace with a better kicker, I just don't think they're doing this here. So anyways, I do fold. It is what it is. Sometimes we make mistakes playing poker, and he does show us the bluff with 9-3 of hearts, so a pair of 3s and a heart flush draw. So they bluff us to end the session, and it is what it is. You know, sometimes just make mistakes while playing. It's part of the game. Let's just rack up, cash out, and see how we did. Alright, the good run continues. Feels great just ending the month like this, especially how it went. If you saw the previous vlogs, I definitely wasn't feeling great. So we just played 1-3 today, so that's pretty cool. Mixing it up and having a 1-3 session, especially when there's so much action, it's so good. We were in for, I think with both of them, both tables, we did switch. I mean, we went to the new table, we had to go back to 300, but I think altogether we went for $500 and out for $13.05, so a profit of $805 in 1-3. Hell yeah, man, that's amazing. I'll take it. There was an interesting situation that happened very at the beginning. Basically, I would have won a promotion that would have been the roulette, but the dealer made a mistake, so they had to redo it. Basically, she skipped a guy, but it's almost always I would have won anyways, but because she misdealed, they just had to do it again. And the value of that promotion, because you have to spin a wheel, it's basically $78. So that mistake cost me $78, and it got me a little upset. I'm not used to that. Not upset, I didn't get mad at anybody. It just got me, you know, annoying. Just that money that I was expecting to be mine. And I cooled down, and they were super nice about it. The guy who won after was offering me, he made $50, he was offering it to me. The dealer came back and apologized. They're super nice about it. I just brought that up because stuff don't bother me too much when I play, and I felt like this one did because I'm not used to it. But that is part of the variances as well. Dealers making mistakes is part of variances. You know, they make a mistake in a big pot and cost you money. You know, they're working. You know they can make mistakes. They're humans too. You never know what they're going through. So I definitely think the last thing you should do is get mad at them. Of course, they do it on purpose. I think the best way of seeing it is, you know, as people hit 1 hours against you, dealers will make mistakes, and sometimes they'll cost you money, and other times they'll make you money, because that evens out as well. Because just like I lost money this time, the other guy made $50. So everything evens out on the long run, and it's just part of it. But yeah, it got me a little bit, but after I kind of try to make myself feel better. I think the logical like that to try to detach myself to emotions, and that made me feel a lot better, and I got over it quick. And yeah, and then it helped out too, just having a great session in 1-3 again and an amazing vlog these last 4 days. This week has been my best week ever. Yeah, definitely the best week. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure you subscribe, like, and leave a comment. I'll see you guys next week.